All right, let's get started. So first of all, let's look at the course, because it's always about who you are playing. Excuse me, it's about what you're playing more than about who you're playing. So there are 4 par 5s and 4 par 3s. Par 72, that means there's 10 par 4s. Only 2 of them are close to reachable in a tailwind. maybe 3. I've actually gotten on the green on number 11 more than any others. So let's see what we're up against. The dragon managed to eagle number 9, which is pretty short, and he also eagled number 12, which is not at all short. His tiebreaker scores are a lot better than the previous ones. So basically, we're going to need to get a minus 24 for the majority of people to beat him. The other way to beat him with a minus 23 is to beat that average tiebreaker score on the par 5s. Because you can see he's hanging out in like the middle to high 1300 tiebreaker range. Well, you got to get around 1700. You do that 3 times, beat him by an average of 350 points per par 5, and you've gotten yourself a 1400 tiebreaker point advantage on him. So number 1, the pin is a little left and slightly back of center, but it's pretty close to center of the green. And I'm trying to get a range down and lay up for Bigfoot. I will use a TP ball for this one. I'm going to play these first couple of holes until I get a drop. And just remember there are 25 replays. I do not intend on using nearly that many. Straight tail 1 second. That's nice. So let's look at this break real quick. This is not a perfectly flat green, it does tilt a lot back to front. And it breaks to the right. You can see this bounce is not dead in line. And as you get closer to the hole, it will turn harder right. So the wind is blowing almost a straight tail, but slightly to the left. So just add about that half bar or so of left spin. Alright, now it's time to get range. So we're at I'm actually going to take off just a touch of the backspin. About an 82-degree tailwind. should be a 3.3-ish range adjustment. Sorry, 3.5 range adjustment. And then a little bit of gearing. So I won't be spending as much time setting up the other shots as I am on this one. Well, that was a little hot, but we got lucky. So there's one drop. That is one of the 2 drops that we need, provided we eagle all par 5s and birdie the remaining par 3s and par 4s. And that's to beat them outright. So if I play what I consider par in, I could use pro D1s on all par 3s and 4s, and use probably 2 pro balls on 3 of the par 5s and be fine. I don't need a single drop. So I'm going to show this one with a pro D, because I got a tailwind here. You don't even need a tour pro ball. So add a few left spin to straighten out the break of this fairway. Maybe 5 or so. Get your adjustment for a Pro D in Fusion 7. In this particular one, that's going to be almost 1-to-1 wind to rain ratio. So I'm going to go 7.4-ish readings. It would be about 6.7-inch from max for a normal. Pro D rings are 1/8 larger, or I'm sorry, 1/8 smaller than normal size rings. There's a bit of lag with this recording, so there may not be a ton of perfect balls. One thing that is important to know is that with a Pro D1, a Tour Pro or Pro Trophy ball, and a lot of the pay balls where they have better swing zone percentage, a great ball is going to go the exact same place as on a great shot, if it's just a minor great, as it will for an ultimate shot.
I'm Agent Mobius, by the way. Are you taking me somewhere to kill me? No, that's where you just were.
So I'm just going to eyeball this one. I know normally Route 8 is a 1.01 if you count rings traditionally. It's 1.01 for Power 7 Max and a 1.125 wind per ring at min distance. That is also the multiplier for Pro Ds.
Yep.
Just taking a peek at this wind angle.
Correct. Is that funny? The idea that your little club decides the fate of trillions of people across all of existence at the behest of 3 space lizards.
So just that little bit of offset, kind of inside right edge.
I thought you didn't like to talk.
And the trees will make this a little complicated to adjust, but
Here we go.
Remember, Mom is a kayak denier, so please don't bring it up.
What, a kayak?
Excuse me?
come on now.
Do the research, Tide.
Not wanting to grab.
Kayak searches hundreds of travel sites to find you great deals on flights, cars, and hotels.
They're lying to you.
Who's they? Kayak?
So this will be about 7.8
Compare hundreds of travel sites at once. Kayak. Search one and done.
Nope, that was under. We needed 8.3. Guess that was a little closer to mid distance. Alright, so 1771. We're still well ahead of pace for this bot. And I'm going to continue to use Pro Ds. We'll just go over some things like how to place your secondary effect. This will be a little tougher with the front pin. Front left, I'm going to set up towards the right side of the fairway. And again, you want to try to get to max big foot range. So I've got max right and max backspin on there. I'm trying to squeeze this against the wind and stop it quickly. And we'll just go about 7.8. 6 strings for that 8.4. Those trees are not actually in play as far as the height of it for that shot. And you'll easily clear over them. Wow, that's right at max distance. So the thing is with Pro Ds, it honestly is better to not play it right to max distance, because then if you get the headwind and you're 2 rings from max, you can't adjust and use max backspin. So that was a little reckless on my part. I should have played it closer so that I wasn't, just I need to land basically probably 3.5 rings short of where I am, somewhere around maybe 4 rings. So ideally I would not have hit it that far, but I was fortunate to get an almost straight crossing. And it's going to be about an 8 point, basically a 9 ring this one usually. So for the photographers here, the little sight that I use kind of looks like the thing you score up the camera. I've got 5 small red lines going up the screen. On this recording, or on the screen, the top and the bottom of those 5 lines are black. The middle 3 for sure are showing up as red. And the middle of all 5, or middle of the 3 red that you can probably see on the screen, that is what I'm using typically as my reference point. if I get a weird camera angle because of the particular elevation in the hole, I might go with a different one. You know what? I just realized I did not even check my bounce to the side. So my bad. I'm gonna have to reevaluate that. So you're looking at how deep it's going to bounce, comparing it with that wind angle. So just a slight headwind, so I know it's going to compress it just a little bit. So probably something in that angle is going to be good. Speed to show up the hole. And now I just got to correct the angle. So let's check that again one more time. It's pretty close. Maybe that much. And I do have a little right spin because the wind's pushing hard and the wind breaks slow. So now let's redo those 9 rings. Same reference point. Except that middle on the very bottom is none. You can see. So when you go measure these rings, frosted rings are 1.1 so far, and then the dark one is 0.9. So that's 2 exactly. Another 1.1 is total 3.1. Another 0.9 is a total of 4. Now when you cross the center, double that I refer to as the core, that adds 2.4 units total. It's 1.2 to the halfway point, and then another 1.2 across. The rings are not all the same size. So right now, you're at 5.3, 6.2. Actually, no, you're at 5.4, 6.3, right there, 7.4, and I got off. Okay. That is 7.3, excuse me. That's 8.4. That would be 9.3. So I'm going to back that off roughly up there. So that's a good pull, and then I've got to get the Jerry adjustment, which is the height difference between where I started aiming from and where I'm now adjusted to. It's the lower ground by a bit, so we're going to push forward about maybe 1/5 of a ring, no more than that. So take your time, use your shot arc and your center line to line it up, and come forward just a tad bit in the center, and then like this. Slide over adjust and maybe didn't do the left spin. Sorry, Duff. I will turn that down. It seems really quiet on mine. Thanks for showing up, Duff. Alright. Another par 5. So this is a good one to use Pro Trophy or Tour Pro Trophy ball. I'll go and use a Pro Trophy. I don't like to use these because I have less, but just to show that this can be done fairly easily. And I'm going to change to RB7. You don't even have to have max topspin, so this can be done with RB6 or even RB5 just fine. With these better balls, you cannot be afraid to overpower, because if you hit in the ultimate slot dead center or one slot either side, it's going to go to the same place. So straight headwind. I'm going to take off a little from max topspin to try to simulate like RB6, and then add about 4 right spin. And that wind is dead straight enough. I don't really need to adjust. I'm just going to tweak it that far over Pin is a little front and a little right of center. That's fairly accessible. You want to leave yourself a full root shot in here, because you don't want to get in a tailwind situation where you're at min root, which is tougher to stop it at, or beyond max Bigfoot. That gap is the kind of no man's land. So right there, that's where I'm measuring. I need to drive it for root. So I don't need even a whole lot of overpower here. I'm taking some top spin off, so I'm going to overpower slightly. So this is basically what you would need for like RB5. We already did all that, so it's a lot less than full overpower. I'm going to use about 75% overpower, and it should put me in the upper end of root range. Duff, is that better now? As far as being able to hear me over the music, I've got it almost muted now. Duff, is that better now? As far as being able to hear me over the music, I've got it almost. And a straight headwind, which is actually really good because I did drive it a little bit beyond. You can see I'm landing about 2.5 rings past the hole, which means I can bring this back. And that is just a little bit short. I can get up there further. So I actually need to take some backspin off. But this is to show you, these are two dead straight headwinds. With this pin, a pro trophy ball and even an RB5 can easily get into range with root. Now, I am going to try to hold this, so I'm going to exit and change to Hellfire 7 real quick, which does have significantly better shot view than root does. So since I need the extra range more than I need max backspin, I can't quite reach it with root and using max backspin, I might as well go ahead and use Hellfire. If you don't have Hellfire 7, you're not going to have significantly more shot view, so it probably does make sense to just stick with root, and you can knock 1 to 2 bars off the backspin for that shot. But this one you'll be able to reach easily, even with max backspin. And I'm going to add a bit of side spin to counter that wind angle. That's pretty much dead center now. Maybe just right of center. And the left spin effect is going to cause it to become more left anyway. Now let's look at the arc here. That is showing just short of the hole. That's probably a little bit hot still. So let's back it up. Probably just that much. Should be pretty close. Bump it just a touch more so that second range just shy of the hole. Come back and check your height. People are very particular about their wind numbers, but sometimes they're not particular about the setup. The setup is the most important part. You can be 1% off a lot of times with your adjustment and still get the drop if your setup was good. So I'm going for as dead center as possible. And now this should be a 3.8-ish ring adjustment. I'm not going to bother with the calculator, but I know roughly where it is. It'll be very close to 3.8 rings. So using that middle of the sight again. This is part of the follow-on to your setup, making sure that you're well centered here so you're pulling accurately for your adjustment. So that would be 4.2 rings to come fully to the other side of that inside full clear ring, because I started bottom edge, so I'm coming all the way across. That's 4.2, but I need a bit less. I only need 3.8, so I need to leave about 4/10 of it, or 4/9 of it, excuse me, above my reference point. And I'm pretty happy with that right there. That's just like the same. So I'm just going to ever so slightly knock a little less spin off that. Now let's check the jerry, because I know it climbed a little bit. Or did it? You don't want to assume just because the ground where you started adjusting was going uphill, and then you get here and find, oh, that's actually pretty level. Or maybe even downhill. So check from both sides. Always get the best looks you can at the green. I'm actually going to come just slightly further forward on the jerry. And let it rip. Well, that's pretty close. So I guess I shouldn't have taken off that last sliver of a bar of Western. But anyway, that's a decent enough tiebreaker at least. Alright, so let's try to get a little cushion, just because it's max range Bigfoot. So I'm going to switch to lightning rod here. Alright, real quickly I gotta enter this other bracket. And yes, I am once again gonna be that douchebag that goes in pro. Because I'm trying to make the point to the hip guys just how wrong this mess with the bracket gerrymandering is. Alright, let's get back to it. I'm going to change to lightning rod and to Spectre. And the Spectre is for two reasons. Actually, I'm sorry, inspectors for the one reason of minimizing the distance between max club and min. So max is way up here, and if I had Orion, I would reach back to somewhere around the middle of this bunker. Somewhere in here is Orion. When I do this, I happen to know where that minimum ring count is. So I'm going to show you all something with a Fury. A Fury ball is a 7% power, which is what my calculations are based on. 7% power and a 75% wind reduction ball. So let's start with that because I want to spin it against this wind and try to stop it a little quicker. We'll end up putting it'll end up being somewhere around that. Overlapping right edge of the cup. Roughly like that. So anyway, now I'm going to get an approximate count up to max distance. So we go 10, 20, and a little past 25, about 25.4 rings to max is where we're actually trying to land. So now you count it back. Go 10. Oh, I'm sorry, hold on. Forgot to show you all the main thing. So there's max distance with Fury, the power 7. You change to going the wrong way, to a Pro Ball, you can get about an extra 10.5 rings of distance with Lightning Rod. Maybe it's not 10.5. I must have measured a little different. Oh, you know what? That was with 11%. So that's an extra 7.5 rings. I'm going to have to redo my numbers. Anyway. So you can do all the adjustments with the Fury or with the Katana. And I'm actually going to use a Katana just for the fun of it. I don't need the extra side spin. Very rarely do I need to use all the side spin that a Fury has anyway, but so 10, 20, what do we say, 25.5, so let's zoom back in here and go bottom edge is inside dark. Oh, Katana, shoot, Katana's 8% power. So you can do the same thing with the Katana, but I'm using 7% numbers to set it, so let's try that again. 10, 20, and 24, 25. Let's just call it 25 for now. Alright, so overlapping that right into the hole. That was max backspin, 2 right spin. That's 25 rings. So basically what you're looking for on these type of shots, if it was a dead straight headwind, I would come up another half ring. This is about a 50 or so degree headwind. So I would come up in a straight headwind, I would come up and have it to where the bounces look a little bit more like this, where the hole is about halfway between the second and third bounce. I can see this one's going to roll out a bit more because I'm able to see part of that third bounce. So it's hitting the first bounce back to hit the target, second bounce short, and when you can see anything after the third bounce, you know it's the green is running a little bit hotter than average, so it'll roll out more. So I'm actually going to back it up to about right there. That should be almost perfect distance. Now let's readjust the lateral position. And overall over the hole. I know my ring count now is 25 rings from Power 7 Max. So because the balls are the same wind resistance, I can switch from this to a Tour Pro trophy, a Pro trophy, or a Katana. All those are 75% wind direction, meaning that the wind is going to affect them all the same as long as the distance doesn't change. So right now, I'm not going to move the target until I do my adjustment. As long as your adjustment doesn't go below minimum or above max range, it doesn't care what ball you use. So I will get the same result as long as I don't change any spin or position and do, the same adjustment. I'm going to get the same results with any of those 4 balls I mentioned. This Fury, a Katana, a Pro Trophy, or a Tour Pro Trophy. Excuse me for a second, I have to sneeze. Alright, so this is a 51 degree headwind and should be 9.65 rings. I'm going to go ahead and do the adjustment with the Fury equipped, and then I'll change it to a Tour Pro Trophy. So let's use that middle red line as the sight, and that's 8493, and then we need about a third of this last larger ring. That's pretty close right now. Maybe it's getting a little sticky on the left and right. Sometimes you gotta work the target around a little so that you get those in-between clicks that are hard to make it land on. I'm getting the distance of my pull right, just not the left and right. It's being warning. And I will take my time on this because honestly it's really important. This is how you get drops with lightning rods. Be particular with that setup. There we go. Okay. Now let's check for changes in terrain. This is a relatively flat green. I may have gone up just slightly. It is better to go slightly higher and be coming in slightly hotter than it is to have gone downhill and be shorter. Because like Wayne Gretzky said, if you never give it a chance, it won't, and you get it there, it's definitely not going in. Actually, I think he said you miss 100% of the shots you won't take. But it's the same concept more or less. You got to get it to the hole. And now, switch to that one, to the Tour Pro Trophy ball. So like I said, any of those 4 would work just fine. You can see where the position of this is. So I'm going to put this smack in the middle of my sight. And the guy is coming down there. Now watch the rings as I change balls here. They do not change size at all. Here is the same. Katana is the same. But because I have 700 and change of the Tour Pro 50 balls, we'll use that. And it did push my brake a little bit more. So I should have used more right spin or offset more or some balls. My wind arrow may not have been straight either. Alright, number 6. So this is one of the possible drivables, but with this wind it is not. So this is another layup hole. There's no need to fight it. Do not let these wind algorithms in the game trick you into wasting good balls. If you get a crappy wind, don't fight it. In this, there are 25 replays. So I'm going to lay up here for Max Bigfoot. Just touch the back spin. And then this will be about an 8.4 in adjustment. I'm putting a little angle on the wind arrow because I'm going to lower ground and I'm lazy. I see there are 2 people watching the stream right now. Well, actually, this went to 1, which might just be me because I've got it up on another computer screen, just trying to make sure that I'm not screwing anything up. So we'll go back to Bigfoot and Orion here. Alright, got a tailwind, crosswind combo against the brake. Screen does brake from right to left on most of it. Actually, this part may turn a little right, left to right. So we're a few from max. And ground is doing the same. I'm not going to add side spin in this case. I'm going to put it outside left edge of the plus. And right there would be just a little hot. So let's back it up. That much or so. It's a 32 degree tailwind. I'm not actually going to mess with the calculator. I thought about it, but I just want to eyeball this. Because the point of this is just to show you don't really even have to be that precise. You take your time, use a couple decent balls on a few holes. I mean, like 6 TP balls tops will get you there. So I'll probably use D1 to make it part of this. 7.7. Coming back from max a bit. Gonna go 7.5 rings. 7.6 rings actually. That's 7. 6-ish. Slightly forward, and it does drop a bit. So I'm gonna jerry up just a touch more. And another drop. Pretty dead center. So I've got 2 drops. I'm 2 clear now. I could birdie that par 5, number 12, the monster, and you have to bounce a long way. Unless you're lucky enough to get the towing off the tee. And I'm still going to beat the spot. Number 7 is a sucker hole. Do not bomb it. Lay back to the Bigfoot again. going to beat the spot, the dragon, by staying disciplined and matching his tiebreaker on par 3s and 4s. You need 850s or better, preferably 875s or better, and beating him on the par 5s. If you get even 2 extra drops and get to 2400, then you don't even need the better tiebreaker. Alright, so we're going to push forward 2 rings here now. Using the max backspin for control just to make sure I get to a consistent distance. .3, that's a fairly nasty win, so they're not getting exactly easy wins. They definitely are looking for people to get involved, but you know what? We're not going to. Not a lot, anyway. Alright, so this, it does break pretty significantly to the right at this cup. It's also fairly sticky, so that would roll out a little bit more. Try that on the distance, and not quite that much onto it. Somewhere in there. Okay. That was fairly close to max, so this will be a 1-to-1 adjustment. It's pulling back from max, so it would normally be around an extra half ring, about an 8.8, but we're pulling back from max, so we'll go 8.3. And let's check the dirty situation here. So we definitely came downhill a little bit. We kind of scooped, so the front of that ring is going down, and then right here, the edge of the target is lower than the center, but then it goes back up like 3 showers. So I'm going to push forward again, just slightly. Okay. Well, tiny over adjustment. That's close. Alright, number 8, par 3. And that's not very makeable with that particular wind. Let's see, I am going to change to root to stop this one a little bit quicker. And have, excuse me, I just find root really easy to adjust for when you're using a D1 because the numbers are kind of inverse. So normally min root would be 1.125 wind per ring, and then as soon as you use a D1 that has the same multiplier, that minimum distance is 1-to-1 per ring, and then the max becomes 0.885 wind per ring. So basically for 10 miles per hour, it's going to be 11.25 rings. For 7.7 miles per hour, it's right at 8 rings. For max, that is. I didn't even change, dang it. Totally spaced out, my bad. Don't know if I even changed anything. And all those numbers are based on, those are the traditional numbers. So because I'm counting the full target is 10.4, I do use them slightly differently. So there's 10.5 rings from max. So it being around 13. 13.5-ish. Oh, I'm good at accidentally selecting that spin. Alright, so we use just a touch of side spin here to counter the wind. Maybe not even that much. That's a good amount right there. Okay. So we're going to be adjusting to very close to min distance here. And then get under these tree branches for the adjustment. We'll also be pulling to much lower ground because I'm coming down the side of this hill. So let's see. There's starting the edge. Alright. So there's 8.4. And it's almost a min. So we're going to go to 8.8-ish. Now is the tough part, trying to figure out how much lower you are. And I don't know if that even does it justice. So let's come to the other side. Take a peek. That's dropped easily a full ring. So I'm going to come forward one of the dark rings. Almost by that much. Because as I come forward, I will gain height just because of this cherry adjustment. So you have to kind of find the happy medium. You don't need just a full ring because I've gained a lot of it back. You have to find that intersect point. So we're going to go about 75% of it. Let's see how that plays. It's still an underadjust by a lot. I don't know what's going on there. It's not a horrible tiebreaker, but it's sloppy. Right. So birdie number 9, and then we just need one eagle on the back to get there. And look at that, another headwind on the other drivable. So the drivables, or holes you can get close to like a no adjust chip, are number 6, number 9, and number 11. So let's see if they screw us and give us headwinds all 3 times. That would be quite something. On this one, you want to drive it just in the start of the fairway. So it's because of the headwind I'm going to be in between clubs. I can't adjust the big foot there. But what you can do is say, okay, I know min root is 1 to 1. And my outside ring, which is 5.2 rings, is just barely on the fairway. So if I go another 3 rings, that puts me easily clear in the start. And look at the wind angle, which that'll be just fine. I'm actually going to shorten it by about half a ring, and watch. This will land in the first half yard of that fairway. I can almost guarantee. First bounce, watch. Actually hit the fringe just short of it. And they give another headwind, which is actually not bad, except that I didn't expect the straight headwind again. I figured they would make it harder and give the tailwind. But we have room more or less to still use Bigfoot. I may have to take off like 2 bars or so of backspin. So with this particular green, it kicks significantly right. You can kind of just count on the wind. I've got the lineup basically right edge of the pin. It's not dead center on the pin, but it's right edge. So start with the max backspin. See, that's getting you to the hole. So basically you can take about a bar and a half off. Of max backspin. Let's see if I can get another. There we go. Alright, so let's go for 8.3 rings here. There's 8.2. We've got room for 8.3. Let's go ahead and do 8.4. Run to center. Alright, and we adjusted up a little bit up a hill, but then into, oh, it's not in the bunker. So that should be pretty close. I'm going to let that ride. You don't need to drive this hole to eagle it. Lay up for the Bigfoot if you get headwind. You don't need to drive this hole to eagle it. Lay up for the Bigfoot if you get headwind. It's funny, they're really trying to get people to burn balls. It kind of pisses me off. They're trying to get people to burn balls because of the winds they're giving. They're giving you tailwinds on the longer par 4s to entice you to bomb it, which means you won't get as good a score because you're not going to drop as many with a lower wind resistance ball trying a full wedge shot. Thinking, oh, maybe I can drive this 400 yards on this 460 yard par 4. Well, the worst shot you can have into a green, other than like a rough or sand shot where you can't possibly reach, is that 50 to 75% wedge range. Those are the lowest percentage shots in the game. You will not see guys like Duff and Banger bombing it on mid-length par 4s. They're going to do the smart thing and lay up, position themselves well for the Bigfoot shot. And so am I. Want to be right center of this fairway. Get it to about 8 rings. Hi Patrick, thanks for showing up, man. I don't know how much of this you've been around for, but I'm using D1s on most of the holes, not the par 5s. And we're coming up on number 12, which is going to be the problem hole for most people. So I will take my time more on number 12, and I'll probably end up using a gold ball because I'm fully expecting to get headwind at least on the drive. So I will take my time more on number 12. Probably end up using a gold ball. If you play a lot of like the red and blue shootouts with Pro D1s and other cheap balls, even like 60 to 70% wind reduction balls, that's going to help your game so much for stuff like this where you know what the bot's going to shoot. You know exactly the score you need. It is a sucker move on the part of the hip team. I mean, they try to make it look like a gift, but the way the winds are set up, they are trying to entice people to waste balls. I get it. They want to make money, but it's too much. They made it look really easy with the Eagle, and even the Tiger wasn't too bad because Wolf Creek has so many drivable par 4s. Don't fall for it. Save the good balls. You only need a couple of holes. I used it on number 1, and as soon as I got that drop, the 2P trophy bump. As soon as I got the drop, I'm back to using D1s. So this should be about a 7.2, 7.3 ring adjustment. So I'm starting on the bottom edge of outside dark ring. And we go 0.9 plus 1.1 is 2 plus 0.9 is 2.9. I'm sorry. So 2.9 total so far, and then across the center, the core is 2.4. So 2.9 plus 2.4 is 5.3, 6.2, 7.3. And back it up just a little for 7.2. Now let's check for the Jerry. I know I did go downhill some. I can't really see from the other side because of the tree. So I'm just going to come forward, touch like that. Stopped on the front porch, but dead on line. Just needed a little bit more Jerry. So if you don't believe me that the multiplier for the D1 rings is 1.125, hopefully the last couple of holes have served as strong evidence that my numbers are correct there. Number 11, and it's another headwind. All three of the par 4s that are bomb worthy, not automatically drivable, but if you get to short range, they get headwind on. That's weak, Hip Mike. If you happen to see this, I will say it to your face. Frickin' weak. Alright, so I'm going to change. Oh, didn't mean to hit standings. I'm going to change to fusion here. Thanks, Patrick. Yeah, it's maybe a little off on my estimation of the secondary effect. I gave it too much credit thinking it was going to push further. Or maybe the Jerry. But these don't have to be super precise, honestly, once you get the drops. Fusion. So I need fusion for the max backspin on this drive in order to set up the full range Bigfoot. Alright, so max back. I don't know if you guys can really see this. I have a series of bars on the screen. And the blue one, it's the middle of the 5 I have. I have a brown one for root, a light blue for lightning rod, a royal blue for Bigfoot, a black one for Spectre, and a purple one for Orion. That is my those help me determine the range that I need to drive the ball to leave a full shot with those clubs. So there's a 6.4-ish ring adjustment for min distance fusion with D1. I'm going to back this up as short as it will go. Make sure the backspin is still max, because when I change from fusion to root, fusion has 100 backspin, but root's only 94. So it takes off that little bit, and then when you move back to fusion, it's not going to add the backspin fully. It's not going to add the extra bit back on for you. You have to do it manually. So I'm hoping for headwind in the second shot. I've played to a distance where, yes, headwind is going to be nice. So let's check out the break of this green. I believe it does turn to the right a little bit as you get up here to the hole. And it's starting to angle right. You can always add topspin to get an easier view of the line. It's not a heavy break before the hole. So let's go back to max back. On max range, that's almost exactly 7 rings. I'll move 7 rings back from the hole. But where we actually need to land will be around 8.5 to 9. And use that max back. Position on the right edge of the pin. No side spin. I would normally use a little side spin to counter the brake, but because the wind is pushing, you know, headwind and right to left, it is canceling out the brake. I just need to come a little further up here. I'm just going to take a touch off the backspin. Like, let's see if I can watch the arc here as I adjust the spin. It's really hard to get low enough. So see right there, the gray area where it says swap ball, you can see that arc change right there. And I know right now the wind is going to push it short. It would want to land where the end of the first ring is, or the edge of the core, I should say. That's how much it's going to compress it, and it could actually check up and back up toward the hole. So I'm watching the arc move as I adjust this just subtly up that. Let's go about that much. And we're going to go 7.7 rings here. This one I feel pretty good about dropping, so I'm taking a little bit more time to get the wind arrow straight before I start adjusting. Alright, so that reference point is bottom edge of the outside dark ring. And go all the way across, and there is 7.7 and 7.8. Gotta get centered now. That's really close. Let's see about the jerry. Yeah, you can see how much uphill that moved. So this one I will shorten just a tad because that would smack the pin right now. If my aim is correct, it would be a little bit high. So we're going to shorten just that much. That was an over adjust. The distance was still actually pretty good. The furthest point that it rolled, it would have been pretty much in the cup. But it was off, and it may have been my alignment. Hey John, I think that's John Holland Broughton. Glad you were able to make it, sir. Alright, here is the one that most have been waiting for, number 12. How much you guys want to bet they give headwind on this beast? Oh wow, it's a crosswind. I am legitimately shocked. It's also the back right pin. I will burn one of my 230 something gold balls here, and I'm going to go change to RB7. So everybody knows how to aim a shot normally, pretty much. You have your win number, you put the target where you want it, you adjust the appropriate number of rings, and try to hit ultimate. Well, we're going to try a different shot. So max top spin, and I'm actually going to do 2 left spin as well. Just trying to keep this bounce as close to the center of the fairway as possible. You kind of find you won't be able to reach as far as that shows. Overpower never goes quite as far as it shows because you're not measuring from where you started. So right now, if I put the center of my gun sight there, that's center red horizontal line, put that at the far end of the rings. Now you think to yourself, oh, I can pull a full like 5.2, 5.3 rings there. No, you're only getting about 60 to 65% of that overpower. In actuality, those 5 rings, you can only add about 3.5 rings of overpower for red Barchetta, or about 4 rings for fusion. So you need to, when you position, you look at the wind angle, and it's like a 1 degree headwind, mostly crosswind, which I won't complain about on this hole. So you're going to be somewhere in here is where you actually land. Search that whole fairway and see where it's going to run out the most. You also don't want to be on the right edge because it makes the angle worse in the second shot. So I'm going to do even about another half a bar. So that is where I would actually want to land. Somewhere right in here is where I would hope and expect to land. Now, I'm going to do this adjustment of about 2.6 rings. I'm using the middle, the core, which is 2.4. I'm going to pull from that top down to the top of the gun sight, the first line. Here is the fun part. I have talked about this maybe on one stream before. Look at the ground when you look down here and see how the fairway is sloping. See how much higher the ground is on the left side over by this cart path than the fairway and of course the right rough, which we don't want any part of. We're adjusted correctly right now if we hit ultimate. However, shifting the aim and then hitting an intentional miss, we call it film or firm. It's full intentional left miss or full intentional right miss. With red Barchetta, a full miss to the maximum extent of either direction is going to be a 20 ring shift. It'll shift you 20 rings. But if you don't add curl, it's not going to add curve. It's not like Golf Clash for those that play Golf Clash. So I'm at max distance. I am shifting first 10. And let's go another 5. So now we have shifted 15 rings right on my screen, but left when referenced from the point of aim on the tee. And I know I'm keeping my reticle center. Alright. So that was 10 so far, or 15 so far. Now we're going to go 16, 17, and now I'm running out of room. Just over 17 is where I'm starting to hit the OB line because it's based on that cart path. So we're at 17.2 rings. I know now, when you look at the swing meter, the furthest line as far as that meter can swing to either side, that is 100% miss, which is 20 rings. The next one in is a 75% miss, which is 15. So about 17.5 rings is where I would want to miss it. So roughly halfway between the very last mark right there, the furthest extent of the right swing, and the next one up is where I want to release. This is not something to try without practice. I would not necessarily recommend you try it today on this hole. But I am showing you a way that'll get about 5 to 6 yards more distance here and make the second shot a little easier. So let's let it rip on the next swing. So you're intentional all the way to the right. I missed the tree easily. That tree is not in play as much as it looks like. And I let it go. I let it go as it was swinging back to the left. It was a slightly late release, but it still did move about 16 rings to the right. Now they give us the headwind, which I honestly would have rather had it off on the tee shot and a cross one on the second because it's going to pinch the bounce so much and make it hard to get through the rough. If I do this right, I can probably still get through the rough, but I won't make the green. Almost certainly. So you go to El Capitan because you need the most possible topspin. And the reason for the gold ball isn't the distance as much as it is how much the wind is going to compress your rollout. Thanks, John. I will probably post some numbers for doing those power shanks. That's the short term for them. Or power pole push. A pole. You assume the game is played from a right-hander's perspective because most people are right-handed. So it is a power pole or a power push. I might be able to get this on. Small chance. So let's see where max distance is. Way up here. You could play it off the back of this bunker. You know what? That's actually what I'm going to do. This will be a good illustration of Jerry. And because, let's see. Yeah, I'm going to go back to Hellfire. So there's two ways to do it. You can bounce off the very end of the fairway. That's where I was just aimed. I didn't think I was going to be far enough up, but I forgot it was crosswind off the tee. So I'm about 10 yards further on the drive than I expected to be. Because normally when you get headwind, which I do more often than not, you can't reach the slope in the back of the bunker. 268.5 basically yards. So max your top spin. See where you can reach with that. That'll easily reach past. So the key is, you know, you're going to have to adjust about 2.7, basically 1-to-1 actually for the gold ball for Highlander, or for Hellfire, I'm sorry. So I'm going to be looking to land, somewhere in right here. This will need a little bit of overpower. And when you adjust, let's look at it from this low side. The low side usually gives the best view. When I adjust those 3 rings, see how my wind arrow is pointed at 9 o'clock now? When I adjust those almost 3 rings, I'm going to be moving somewhere up here to that lower ground from the target. We don't hit OP till right there. So this may actually work out without having to use any OP. Let's take a little top spin off this actually. Not that much though. And I'm feeling pretty froggy, so I'm gonna that's a little short, so alright, I think that's pretty close to where I want to be. So from this point, it's not a very good view right here. You can't see all your rings. So you come around here. You know you're at max distance with power 11. So the way I count the rings, it'll actually be slightly more than more rings than just a 1-to-1 adjustment. It's going to be 2.95 rings. And I'm going to adjust differently here because I'm not going to pull across the center. I'm going to go to the top of the center with that center horizontal red line of my gun sight. I actually got to zoom out a little bit. I want this to be a one-piece move. And that's a common mistake I think with adjustments is, just to be clear, it is not the lowest line there on the gun sight. I am ignoring the ball guide at this point. I've already gotten the guide. I know where that needs to be. All I'm doing is using the top edge of the core at the middle red line for the adjustment. So right there, you go 0.9 plus 1.1 is 2 plus 0.9 is 2.9 and just that much into it. Because we are really near to power 11 max distance now. And get this centered, which it is now, and now you see much more clearly how much you've dropped. Because, let's do this again. I'm going to put my grid bullseye on the point where we were when we just came from. basically right there. So now with the wind arrow at perfectly 9 o'clock, see that red line that I'm sliding across in the screen where that my grid bullseye is. That's how much we've dropped. That's dropped about a quarter to a third of green. So we're going to also push forward, Jerry forward, that same amount because we need to try to hit on the exact same spot in order to produce the bounce that's projected. And that's max distance. So I will just play it to max distance, no overpower, and let's see how this rolls out. Welcome aboard. And I beat the bot's tiebreaker, which I did not expect because I thought I'd get a headwind here. So again, that is a risky drive and the riskier second shot play because when you do that Jerry adjustment, the initial adjustment and the Jerry adjustment, going over that uneven ground, that downslope off the back of the bunker, is pretty tricky. These are advanced level shots, the drive and that particular second. If you are not confident, play a normal drive, probably with the gold ball. I would recommend it because odds are they will give you headwind on the second shot if they don't give you it on the drive. Or if they do give you it on the drive, it'll probably still be headwind in the second. Alright, back to Pro D1s. Thank you, Patrick. I've done it a couple times. One time, I'm trying to remember if that's how Banger got his albatross. I know Banger has albatrossed this at least once, and I have too, but mine was by flying it completely on. And I think Christian Heed was the first person I saw albatross this, so whatever else you want to say about him, he hit a heck of a shot to drop this one. And he did the El Capitan roll, bounce and roll through the rough to the front pin. His actually came really hot. It was weird. Alright, slide over power. Honestly, even if you don't roll fully through the rough, it's not a horrible rough chip. It might be a slight adjustment to the back pin. But if it's the front or the middle pin, it's usually no adjust, especially if you make it to the fairway. I would still recommend a gold ball just on that hole because it can very likely make a full shot difference. I would be shocked if anybody albatrossed it today, but hopefully people will be making eagle more often than not. So this should be the max, basically the max adjustment. Move that up even with the pin. A little bit of offset, a little bit of counter spin. Alright, put the wind arrow straight. And this will be right around 8.8 rings. So, middle of gun sight. 8.4 right there. And that's 8.85-ish. I think we did go uphill somewhat. Actually, significantly. So I will give a little bit of that distance back because we've just gained a bit. And I don't really want to shatter this pin. Ooh, wow, that was a lucky bounce. Right edge of the hole to behind it and then fell. So that was a slight underadjust by about 1/10 of a ring. The distance was pretty good because the idea is for it to come in backdoor on that left side. It was not supposed to catch the right side of the rim and bounce that way, but I won't complain. Especially not after the 1800. Alright, another par 5, long one. You do not need the gold ball in this one. Go with max top and about 4 right spin. Should be good to hold this fairway that slopes a little bit to the left. So it's almost a straight headwind. You can kind of just eyeball that adjustment about. So, actually, you know what? Let's be conservative. Let's make this another. See if that's right. This is another hole where you've got a big slope on this right side. As you go up that hill, you'll gain more distance. Yeah, I love the Hellfire. It's really easy to adjust because if you count rings the way I do, it's right at a 1-to-1 win per ring max. So I actually rarely use the calculator on it on par 5s because I'm usually using it right around max distance and use root for the shorter stuff. If it's a par 3 and I'm at less than max significantly, then yeah, I'll use the calculator. So let's do that. That power. This will be a power pull because I'm going to shift rings to the right and move my aim on the meter left. So there's 10 rings, and I think this is only going to let me get to around 13 or 14. I want to say before I'll hit the OB line because it's somewhere right on like this row of trees. So I did 10. And actually, this is a little bit more visible now, so I'm going to use the outside edge to reference this. You don't have to be lined up perfectly with your avatars if you're doing a Jerry Bisman. So there's max range. So that's 11, 12, 13, 14, and yeah, we're hitting now. Just after 14, so we'll just call it 14 innings. So this time, I'm missing to the left, not the fullest extent, almost right on the next tick mark over, the 75% miss. We need like a 72% miss or something. 70%. So it's going to be the second tick in, just back towards the middle from it, is what I'm trying to release. It's pretty close. It may have been right on it, so it may be 15 rings left. But this is definitely in the fairway. And that was just to gain a few extra yards. I don't do it on, I think it's number 4, because that hole's not quite long enough to where you need it. I was easily within max Hellfire range just doing a conventional drive, and it wasn't even with full top spin. But this one, we're still going to be a little short with Hellfire. So look up here in this part of the fairway, and there you'll see that spot where it bounces just a little bit longer, short of max. So you're looking for, it's a 3.9-ish headwind. There's a couple different ways to do this one, but this is the one I would recommend. So 4-ish top and 6-ish right. I think it's got to be more right. Right spin. I might have to just overpower this one a little bit. Most likely will. So that looks like it's going to go right, especially with the wind pushing. But the thing is, when you effectively shorten this, it's going to take more of the break. So let's get the spin where we want it to go at the hole first. It should be about right there. If you see how that's breaking. That's pretty close at the hole. That's 2 top spin. So let's bump it up to about 3.5. I'll actually leave the side spin there. I think it'll mostly cancel out. So we're going to be pulling slightly into overpower. How much will be important? The wind angle doesn't quite make me drop down in the bunker. So my Jerry here is actually going to be slightly reversed because I'm gaining elevation and therefore distance. If that wind angle was more of a straight headwind and I dropped into the bunker, then I would have the opposite problem. I would be losing distance and need more overpower. So let's see where a head-on 3.9 aim adjustment takes us. So that's 0.9 plus 2.4 is 3.3, and then we need all but 3/10 of that ring. So that is slightly into overpower. Let's see by how much. That was a little over a ring into overpower. So I gained some elevation. This will be about a 40% overpower shot. Let's let it rip. Oh, it lipped out. A little hot. But the aim was good. John, I see you're saying you maxed Outlaw. Most holes, RB5 is going to be the longest unless you have tailwind. This is not a good course to use like Pro DX on, especially because you saw what happened to me there on 12. Even if you got a tailwind on the drive on number 12, you have a very tough second shot where the most important thing there is having enough topspin to get through that rough one way or the other. Whether you play the fairway bounce, like most people will do, or play the bounce off the back of the downslope past the bunker like I did there. Looks like we got some spammers here now from Russia. Thank you. Thank you, comrade. Alright, we can go back to Pro Ds now. I've got the bot beat. We'll just try to show some breaks and some rough adjustments for playing cheaper balls. Almost straight crosswind here. So with no side spin, lining up left edge of the pin, maybe fully left of the pin, and just add just like that much side spin. We were about 5 rings short of max. That's good in the distance. Let's see, will we slight headwind? So I'm going to just take the slightest sliver off the backspin because of the slight headwind. And now adjust. It'll be 8 rings even. Middle lining gun sight. So that's 8.2. And then give about 2/10 of it back. Just center it better now. Still a lot coming out. It's a little short, but we pulled uphill down. Now I'll jerry slightly because that I didn't get it dead center on the. Okay. Oh man, that's payback for the lucky bounce I got earlier. That's rough. Slight over adjust, I guess. Okay, so to answer your question, John, if you're talking about the drive on number 12, I would have to refer back. Let me check real quick and see what Fusion 5 stats are compared to RB5. So give me just a second here. I've got it in a message to a buddy from a while back. Go ahead and do the next hole here. messages from my guy saying I need to get in the madness bracket. So we'll come right back to this. Alright, so RB5 is 60 top spin with 253 yards. Fusion 5 is 59 top spin with 245 yards. Did I see that right? Yeah, so RB5, John, will be longer for that hole in anything but a pretty dead straight tailwind and a lower wind resistance ball. So considering that you need to use a gold ball, yes, RB5 will be the best ball to use on that shot. And RB5 plays at 1.45 wind per ring max distance. If you wanted to try the power push shot there on that hole, you would need to adjust the however many rings to the left that you can fit, and then do it to the right. The max ring number for the power pole is 17 rings for RB5. It's 20 for RB7, but it's 17 rings for RB5 and RB6. So if you can only fit, say, 12 rings into the left because of the wind angle when you do that shift, you can't do the full 17. If you can only get 12, okay, Fusion is about to be level 6, but not quite level 6 yet. Give me 1 second, guys, to deal with this bracket situation. All right. Oh, we're on 16. This is one of the uglier greens in here. So anyway, back to the drivers. Yeah, if you need to figure out how to do the offset when you can't do the full offset is super easy. In fact, I'll do it here on this drive if I can get the distance right. When you're using a Pro D1, you still have to account for the smaller rings. So RB5 is normally a 20 ring offset for the full power pole. I'm going to try to drive it to about right there. Okay. So I'm going to adjust for the wind, 7.3 rings here. Now, normally you would be the 20 rings for RB7, but because it's a Pro D1, you're going to add 12.5% to that number, or a 1.125 multiplier. Same thing as plus 12% in this case. So there's 20, or there's 10, now there's 20, and you need another 2.5 rings to equal that 12%. So I'm actually going to have to shift this way because of the trees I can't see. So you can set your right there. It's 21.5, just a ring and a half, and 22.5. So I'm not going to add any curl, straight power, and full left miss. Straight max overpower, that is, and full left miss. Dead center fairway. So again, for RB5 and 6, which are the same accuracy and distance, it's 17 rings, conventional ball rings, for the offset, if it's full offset. But say you do that shift to the left and you can only fit in 10 or 12 rings. you'll divide whatever number of rings you could fit by the 17. So say you could do 12 rings and you divide that by 17. Your number is going to be like 0.7058 and change, which is 70, basically 70%. And that's where you would want to miss it on the meter. So like I said, the furthest ticks on either side there and there, those are 100% misses. And then the next one in is 75. The third one in each side is 50. So you would want to be just towards the middle from the 75% mark in order to get that miss. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend, for now, if you haven't practiced it, I wouldn't necessarily recommend trying the drive when it's not the full miss. It's very easy to release at the edge of the swing because it's stopped moving. You just wait till it freezes there. So that part's easy. The math is easy and the execution is easy. But if you're not real confident and used to the timing of it, this may not be the best time to try for your first time. Alright, we're about 11-ish rings from Max Prody 1 Big Fit here. And I mentioned this green. This is the easiest pin location on the green. The far left is an absolute biatch. I see my friend Chris Knox is trolling this post again. He's kind of obsessed with me. All because I told him that grids are not cheating just because he thinks they are when the rules do not prohibit them, nor have the devs verbally or in any Facebook post prohibited them. But that's another story. So let's go ahead and do 7.2 rings. 7.1-ish. Alright, there. I'm getting a little lazy, so I just incorporated the Jerry into the adjustment, and I think I did anyway. Oh, not enough. It's gonna have to have more Jerry, because that ground is going a lot lower towards the pond now. I mean, logically, if I go out in a park and I want to fly a drone around, I'm not violating FAA regulations because I'm not flying it over 300 feet high. There's nothing in the park posted to say you can't do this. There's no city ordinance in any written code. It's not written anywhere that says you can't do this. Should some citizen call the police on me when I am not disturbing anyone else driving that drone, flying that drone around, not breaking any laws? I don't understand what he claims to be logic there on the subject. And to me, it's a pretty close example of grids. It's on your device. It doesn't interact with the game. It's only interacting with your eyes. It might cause more lag on your device. I don't know. The guy's just tiresome with the same arguments. Oops. Alright. Let's change to... I'm going to change to Fusion and Basic Wood here so that there's more room to adjust. So the bot's already beaten for me, but that doesn't mean necessarily that it will be for everybody at this point. Oh shoot, I didn't want Hellfire, I need Basic Wood. Or Root, I mean. Excellent, quick root instead of Basic. Alright, so let's get an idea of the max range. Is up there. The max, about 10-ish, about 20-ish. will say this green does break left towards the water as you get closer to the hole. Yeah, it's definitely England left. So I'm actually not going to try to side spin this one. I'm going to let it take the break. And the wind push. So the ball, the shot view, I'm putting on the right edge of the hole basically. Lots of backspin. In fact, it'll be a higher percentage shot for the drop to let it roll out a little bit more. So I'm gonna take, excuse me, I'm gonna take off that much backspin. And this one I will calculate. I'm not solid for fusion on precision shots with a D1. So we're just going to estimate that is 13 inch from max when we start. 8 mile per hour wind at 51 degrees. And according to my calculator, it should be about 7.4 rings. Oh. Middle of the gun sight. Starting point 7374. And let's see. I think Jerry has stayed equal. I actually added a little distance on that adjustment inadvertently, but didn't feel like messing with it. Oh, it's an over adjust. Yeah, short and right, so definitely an over adjust. So it's about a third of a ring over adjust probably. I'm reading what you said down. I can't tell. Your one message says, haha, I don't, and then it does say, I use overlay. So either way, I mean, people can use what they want. They're not breaking any rules. This Chris Knox dude wants to say that it's widely accepted in the worldwide internet video gaming community. Okay, well, every game has a little bit different rules. If it doesn't have the rule, then it's not a rule. And for you to say, oh, because League of Legends or whatever he plays doesn't allow a grid, which I have no idea what good that would do you in League of Legends. I've never played it. It's like I told him, I can't enforce U.S. laws on Canadians. If they don't have the same laws, I'm not going to go over there and try to enforce their laws on ours. Enforce our laws on them. And again, I've said this like 15 times now, I am pretty much happy to help anyone when I legitimately have a chance. I'm happy to help anyone construct a grid, provided they have a device that can house it, an Android. iOS doesn't have that capability. Sorry, I mean, it's everyone's choice what phone they buy. And if it's important enough to you, then my suggestion is to buy an Android to play on. I see what some people spend on balls. Some of the more notorious anti-grid campaigners. I'm going to use a TP ball here because this is a very long par 4, long second shot. Let's see. This won't get to the end of the fairway, I know, even with full top. Full blast. And it's just a matter of whether we'll be using Pegasus or Lightning Rod for the final shot. And it's always fun to finish with a drop if you can. Still about 12 yards short of the end of the fairway. Maybe 15, I don't know. Dead headwind, this will be a Lightning Rod. So I'm going to change clubs here. Let me see how far beyond. That's pretty foot, yeah. Could even be next week, but no, I'm gonna switch to Hellfire. I was saying, like, trying to take away someone's freedom without reason when they're not infringing on anyone else, not doing harm, just cannot stand the concept. It doesn't matter. It's more important in real life than a finger golf game, but it all pisses me off, honestly. And the guy just keeps saying it. Oh, you haven't proven to me that grids aren't cheating. I mean, what else do you need besides there is no rule against it, and there's been no updated verbal or written post on Facebook against it? How dumb do you have to be to keep arguing that and saying the same thing with slightly different wording over and over and louder and trying to turn the tables and say that I'm illogical? Don't be shy about it, John. I am very obviously not shy about it, which that's not everybody else's problem. But alright, so we found out earlier that it's 7.5 rings. So there's power 7 max right there. And then 10 rings for max. So what I have noticed in my past experiences with this hole is I tend to come up short here and it turns hard left at the end. So we are not going to make that same mistake this time. Shoot. I'm just going to start over now. So measure your 7.5 rings back from power 10 max to find power 7 max. Right there. And then, this is the more precise one. It's 9, 10 right there. So we're going to come up to like 9, 7-ish. Alright. I mean, I don't agree with guys playing like 5+ full replays over in red and blue shootout. What's the point? You don't win any balls. Coins, once you get to a certain point, coins just don't matter in the game. Club cards, game cash, maybe, but you're going to spend more of it. Or bottom line is money. You're going to spend more money by doing replays, using more balls, and having to replace them. And if you're not even winning balls back in return, why are you going to burn more balls to win no more balls? Because you want a pretend banner. If you want to spend the money, fine. I mean, that's people's right to do, and that's exactly what the devs want. But it's completely different. That is a matter of opinion, whether you should or shouldn't replay over and over and over in whatever tournament. It's not really a matter of opinion on the legality of grids. It's pretty clear, and he's trying to make it complicated. Alright, so 10 rings from power 7 max, 4 miles per hour, almost dead straight headwind. It's an 88-degree headwind, and this should be a 10.2 ring adjustment. Jerry, it'll be a reverse Jerry because I'm going up a hill. So you always do the Jerry, I always do the Jerry last, unless I'm just getting lazy and kind of like eyeball it, incorporate it into the initial adjustment, which if I'm doing, kind of quicker, less precise stuff with Pro D1s, that's what I'll do. Almost like I'm playing head-to-head. It's about the same way that I do in head-to-head. So 10.2 rings, center line of the gun sight. And we're going to go almost the full, but not quite full with the target. that's pretty much it on the aim. And then just eyeballing this cherry. It did go up about, we'll move it about a quarter ring, fifth to a quarter of a ring back. Hopefully this will be the exclamation point on the slaying of the dragon. Let it rip. Thank you all for watching. It was fun to get to talk to a couple of you, Patrick, John, and thank you, Duff, for making an appearance in my humble domain. I hope that helps, and if anybody's got specific questions, you can PM me on Facebook or find me in the Ultimate Golf Facebook group, Jordan Rumfelt. Good luck.